Hello YouTube world, Mac Daddy 1911A1 here with the Shade Tree Survivalist. You may or may not have recently seen the videos I had up on the modifications I've done to my M1A M14 rifle. In one of those videos, and I'm not going to make a point of telling which one, I made a very serious mistake, and I'm not even going to point out what the mistake is, but to the person that I offended in that particular one, someone who's I consider a very good friend of mine, I apologize. And so what I've done is I just deleted those original ones off, and here is the new M14 modification video. Without further ado, I'm going to go through and tell you some of the things I have done to my rifle to make it a little bit more user friendly. Little more operator friendly, and I'm going to adjust my camera here so I can get around in front of it and see what I'm doing. Some of these modifications, there's nothing really special about them. Anybody can do them to any of the firearms out there. But some of these really enhance how easy it is to use an M14 M1A rifle. Now you have to remember this rifle, the original, the parent of the M14 is the M1 Garand, which got into service with the U.S. military in 1938. Served all the way through World War II, then into Korea. Did a really outstanding job there, as well as in the beginning of Vietnam. Now the M14 was adopted into U.S. military service, I believe it was 1959, and Kennedy's Secretary of Defense, McNamara, canceled it in 1963. It served on as the primary rifle in U.S. service until the early 1970s, though it was pretty much withdrawn from Vietnam in the 60s and replaced by the Armalite AR-15 M16, which I think Colt went to mass produce. But anywho, some of the they pretty much stopped development of the M14 rifle except for the sniper versions, and you know, there's really not a whole lot of development as a battle rifle, its intended original role, until the War on Terror. We went into Afghanistan and your average engagement was over 500 yards. Okay, and so you have century-old Mauser rifles and Lee Enfields and God knows what all else, that most in the Gants that the Afghanis were shooting at our guys with, that, you know, full power 7mm and 8mm cartridges that could really reach on out there. And because they live in Afghanistan, and because they have fought many wars, especially with the Soviet Union from 1979 until 1989, they you know, understand how to shoot long range. Now they're not what you consider real snipers, but an unaimed shot that hits you at 800 yards is still going to kill you if it's got the sufficient power. So the U.S. military and private industry got together, and the next thing you know, you have some enhancements that really make these rifles do that deal. Okay, so I'm going to detail some of these enhancements, and I'm going to tell you what I had to do on one specific one in particular, because this is a Springfield M1A loaded that was manufactured in the latter part of 2001 after 9/11. I actually had to wait. I actually ordered this rifle and had to wait 2 months for it to be delivered to me because it had to be manufactured. And some of the things that they've done to these later model rifles were not mil spec, and it shows. The first modification I'm going to go into, and I'm going to turn my little viewfinder around here so I can see it, would be the addition of this little bugger right here. This is a Smith Enterprises extended bolt stop, bolt release. Okay, this was a nightmare when I installed it, and it was last week I think it was when I got it installed. My days and my nights get all screwed up because sometimes I'm on day shift, sometimes I'm on night shift, and it varies week to week to week, and damn impossible to remember exactly what I have to do. But I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this particular spot, this part. Let me see if I can get my camera to work. There we go. Oops. I want y'all to know, if I ever have the money to get a decent camera tripod, I'm going to be a happy camper. Okay, I think you can see it right there. This is it. This replaces the original part, and it is mil spec, very hard piece of metal, and it does what it is advertised to do. It is an extended bolt release, and I've got one of my new Checkmate magazines in there with a snap cap in it. Chambers locked open. Okay, so I can do this quick demonstration of this thing, and doing it at an angle it sucks. But anyway, all you got to do is like an AR bolt now, bolt release. Okay, and all you got to do is push in on it, and I had my stinking finger over there. So let's redo that, so I don't feel like an idiot. I wasn't even paying attention where my hand was. So I'll do it left-handed, weak hand, like you're supposed to do it. You snap your magazine in, you roll up your thumb like, bam, you're right back in battery. Okay, and the chamber's closed and locked in to battery like it should be. If you saw the last M14 M1A modification video, you'll notice that I have painted it. I'm all about keeping my butt safe and alive out in the boondocks, and it will change over time, I just imagine. But anywho, the other modification I did was I added a satellite extended magazine release, which makes snapping that magazine in and out a breeze. Got these pieces and parts and several of the other parts that I've got on here through Brownells. I highly recommend their customer service, and their prices are competitive with everybody else's. You know how it works. Some of their prices are a little more expensive, some are less. And I'll detail a little bit more of that here in just a moment. But what I want to do right this second is back out and show you the tools I used and explain to you how I had to battle with the Springfield rifle in order to modify it with the that Smith Enterprises extended bolt release, bolt stop. First things first, if you are a novice and you don't generally use hand tools, you might want to leave this to a gunsmith. If you have a Springfield rifle or a Norenco or something and you're wanting to add this little part, because the way mine is designed, the hole that because you're supposed to drive this little roll pin from the left side to the right side, or from the front to the rear. Okay, because that's just the way it's manufactured. The hole on this side was about half or maybe even a quarter the size, or a third the size of the hole that's on the side that you need to drive it out of. I've got a little 1/16 inch drift that I tried to use, too big. I've got an 8th inch punch that I eventually used to drive the new one in, but it was ridiculous. I ended up having to take a very small drill bit and drill at an angle on this side here to open that hole up just a tad so I could get something in there. Then the only thing I could use was an Allen wrench, a little tiny Allen wrench, and bent it and broke it. So I said, okay, that's not going to work. So I took a drill bit slightly smaller than the one I used to drill this hole out, and I used my brass hammer because my non-marring nylon headed hammer would not work, and use this brass hammer after I taped the P-whacking out of the receiver to prevent me from hitting it and skinning it and scratching it. I mean, I ended up having to retape it 3 or 4 times because it would cut through it, because my old hammers, as you can see, is well used. But I took that drill bit and I ended up breaking it 3 or 4 times, but it worked and it got it pulled out just a tad on this side, on the back side here, okay? Then I took these heavy duty cable cutters. Now these things look very similar to what you would use to skin a catfish. But I laid them on this back side, I grabbed that daggum pin, and I took this hammer and drove it out. You may or may not have ever seen one of these little pins. Now this is about the size of the pin that is in the rifles. Real tiny, real small, okay? And this is what they look like. Alright, it's a roll pin is what it is. And it's bigger than the hole you're going to drive it in. But you see this cut in it? Okay, you see it right here. This cut is designed to be squeezed in. And once it's driven in, it is always pushing outward on the holes in order to prevent it from working its way back out. Now, it happens now and again. But if you go and on your rifle, they'll send you a brand new pin. Use the new pin. Take that old pin out and discard it. Okay, because it's you know, it's just like any other spring. It'll weaken over time. But that's all it is sheet metal that's been rolled that way, and it's been heat treated so it's springy. And the ends are beveled a little bit, so it'll help you start it into the hole. But I just went out to my shop and got a huge one here just so you can see what it looks like. But I got the old one out using the cable cutters. I grabbed that sucker basically like this here, just like a pair of catfish skinners, and gripped it just enough to take my non-marring nylon hammer and just tap it, and it pulled it right out, no problem. Now, the next problem I encountered was putting the new pin back in. So what I did is I took that 1/8 inch punch I was telling you about, and I took that pin and I taped it to the end with just plain old painter's tape. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything fancier, whatever, and that's the same thing I used to cover the receiver. And I just taped it to the end, because you're not going to hold the pin, hold the punch, and tap it with a hammer to get it to go in at the same time. I mean, not unless you have 3 arms, and I would like to see that. That's but you see me, I've been wearing the tape. It's this is the tape I used, just regular painter's tape, masking tape. Okay, and I just taped it on there and lined it up, got it up to the hole, and then I just took my hammer and I tapped it in just a little bit till it started protruding to the other side. Okay, laid the spring in the hole, set the guide over it where the spring would line up, and I held that. Like I said, now this was a pain because I did all this by myself. Held it in there with my fingers and laid this baby up in, you know, got it back up here in the hole, pushing that in with my fingers. Yeah, I mean, it's a nightmare. If you can get someone to hold this, because that spring's not super powerful. It's not as nearly as powerful as the Sadlac extended magazine release down here on the bottom, but it's pretty, you know, it's got a good little bit of strength to it. But you get someone to hold that baby in, and you set it up in there, and that tape will hold it in alignment, and you just get it started tapping. Now, it's going to rip that tape, not unless you're absolutely perfect, and I was not, but it ripped the tape. But I got it started, and that was it. Once it was started, I used the bigger 1/4 inch punch and laid it up there on the receiver. Bam, 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 bam. It was right in there in just a minute. So if you can get some help, that's great. But like I said, if you're not used to using hand tools, I would highly recommend you let someone who, hell, a gunsmith. Take it to a gunsmith. You probably $50 you can get it installed, no problem. The part, I think it was either $50 or $60. But you damn sure want to be careful with it. Now, the extended magazine release by Sadlac, they send out some freaking outstanding directions. Alright. Now, I did not go exactly by the directions because I work with this kind of stuff all the time when I had trucks. And I did it with my hands. The spring on mine was not really super strong. So I just used my hands to do it. But if you are a novice, you have not done anything like this before, they have excellent color directions. Let me get over here so you can see them. I think you can see that okay. And they're, you know, they're written out. They tell you what kind of tools you need and so forth, and what they recommend for you to use. And then, like I said, if you are a novice, you're not used to using hand tools, you don't have a vise and all this kind of stuff, you may want to go and make sure you have all the correct tools before you get started. Okay. Unfortunately, none of it, except for maybe the hammer and a few of the other odds and ends, they doesn't translate over to the Smith Enterprises bolt release, unfortunately. But they send you a little pin. Okay, it's a tapered pin to help drive out and capture. It drives out the old roll pin, which is right here in this little package. I'm not sure if you can even see that. It's impossible to do all this without a camera person, and Kimmo, she's working, so there you go. There goes a camera person. But here's the original and the pin that comes with it. Don't reuse the old pin. Same thing with the bolt lock, the bolt release. Don't reuse the pin. Use the new pin they send you with the new part. But they send this little tapered pin to help you drive out the old one. It captures it so it doesn't come flying out there, and then when you pull it back out, you got to make sure that thing, you got a real good hold up, because that spring that is a lot more powerful on it than for the extended bolt release. That's the other modification I did. I just wanted to say, I'll tell you what, every part I've got from Satellite has been dead on the money. I mean, absolutely dead on the money. The quality directions that they give you for this, it was just great. I mean, absolutely great. Smith Enterprises did not send out any kind of directions, but I cannot say anything about that simply because, like with this Springfield, this side of the receiver is thicker, okay, or maybe the bosses here is what these call it. You might think of them as an ear, but the bosses, maybe they're smaller or something on my rifle. I'm not sure, and it doesn't matter. I got it in there. But I did nick the receiver just a tad. There was a little bit of shiny metal there, but I already had intended to paint the rifle. That's just all there is to it. But if you're a novice, if you're not used to using hand tools, I'm telling you, you will ruin your rifle if you mess up your receiver. Everything else connects to that receiver. And if you break your receiver or you mess it up real bad, you done screwed yourself up. So if you're not used to using hand tools, you're not super confident in your abilities, please, for God's sake, go to a gunsmith and let them install these items, because you're going to be partially, messing with your trigger group. You're not actually disassembling the trigger group when you do the extended bolt release, magazine release here. But you gotta have it out of there, and if you mess up your trigger group, you're talking several $100s to replace it. You know, if you break that part, the housing that everything else connects to. So you make dang sure of what you're doing before you do this kind of stuff. Now y'all see, I used to have an old raggedy Freightliner truck, and this damn thing cost me thousands of dollars. Every month something was broke. Every week something was broke. And I was used to working on it, and then I had my Mac, and I do all the work on my car. So if you're not really familiar with tools, you might want to let a professional do it, because you're going to really booger up your rifle. Onward and upward to the other modifications. Let me move all this stuff out of the way right quick, and we'll talk about some of the other modifications. Unfortunately, with my camera, if you pause it, it becomes a brand new video. And you can fast forward it, whatever you want to do. I don't have the time to at this time to go through and do a whole lot of other stuff. Modifications before I get into the tools. Up here on the front, let me move the Black Hawk CQD strap out of the way. I have a brand new Surefire G2X Pro. Here's the paperwork that came on, $70 Wally World by Surefire. But I got a G2X tactical light, and it's not necessarily a weapon light, but it's 320 lumens. It's very bright. It's got a I think a 110 low power setting to save the batteries, and it's got 320 lumen, and that sucker is massively bright. I did not realize 320 lumens was that bright, but I mean, it'll do a really good job. And it is mounted to the left hand side Picatinny rail on my rifle using just a standard 1-inch scope ring. I really thought I'd have to have something really fancy to mount it to the rifle. I actually went online and I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and I was like, you know what, this is not cutting it. And I'm sitting here making a cup of coffee, and it clicked in my head, why don't you just try a scope ring? So I did, and it worked perfectly. Now, you see that string hanging down here? Without something covering this thing during the daylight hours, that damn thing gives, I mean, it is shiny. So I just made my own cover. And in order not to lose it, I just used a piece of string. Okay, I got it tied off. And last night, I think it was last night, I heard something out in the yard, and I was like, man, what in the hell is that? So I went and got the rifle. Oh, I know what it was. Raising my dog, my bulldog. She got out of the backyard, which is fenced in. I was like, oh hell no, that ain't gonna work. We got to do something about that. So I went and got it, and I turned it on. I was like, damn it, the batteries are dead or something. I forgot that this thing was on there. And I mean, even with it on its brightest setting, it didn't bleed out. It didn't come around the back or anything. So my little modification here that I made out of cardboard and duct tape, and then use camouflage tape over it, worked really well. And you can take it off, and you know, once you pull it off, it's there, and you don't have to worry about losing it. So that's one of my little modifications: the Surefire, the tactical or the standard 1-inch rings, as well as my little scope or the flashlight cover. The other thing is I just covered the lens caps on the little Siemens model 511006C. Let me flip my little viewfinder around here. I can't see what you can see. Nothing special. I think I paid $50 for this thing. Didn't want a really expensive one because I didn't know. I have never owned a red dot top sight. I didn't want to spend a hell of a lot of money until I saw if I liked it. And man, oh man, oh man, this thing is fast as far as picking up the sight, as long as you've already got your illumination, the size of the dot set, and the brightness of the illumination. But those are two of the modifications I got. I finally got the correct Black Hawk Picatinny rail adapter for the Black Hawk Sportster bipod, and man, that thing tightened it right up. It's not wiggling like it was with the Pro Mag Picatinny rail adapter. Who knows, maybe one of these days I might give that Pro Mag away in a giveaway or something if I ever reach 1,000. We'll see. A lot of guys do giveaways. I've never even done that because, I mean, I never even thought about it because I'm broke as hell. But who knows? I've got a few extra parts here and there now. The other thing I've done is on the big scope that is low end. It's so low end I'm not even going to tell you who manufactures it, but I can assure you it's not a Weaver or anything. But I made myself a sunshade, and to help reduce the possibility of the reflection off the objective lens back to a possible potential enemy. Let's hope that never happens. But as we know, we've got the situation in Connecticut. We got the situation in New York. We've got the situation at the Bundy Ranch. While I'm at it, I'm going to say to all the militia, Minutemen who ran out there and put a, stood by Mr. Bundy and put a stop to that mess, I want to say thank you as a fellow American. Mr. Bundy is not a good public speaker, and he screwed the pooch the other day with some of his comments, and a lot of guys really turned their back instantly on him, Hannity and so forth. But the black Marine who's out there, or former Marine, who stood by Mr. Bundy after that and said, I would die for this man, I'm going to give a double hats off to that young fella. Just wanted to throw that in there. Now, I'm going to zoom back out and get me a blank space on the table, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that I purchased specific to the M14 M1A rifle that you may think about acquiring. Some of these tools I did not even know they existed until I recently got a couple of books on the subject. And so without going into the tools first, I'll go in and I will say right now, if you own an M1A, M14 type rifle, you really could, you cannot do any better than these books here. They got a lot of valuable information. This one here will tell you how to take it down to every single part completely and absolutely and totally apart. How to modify these parts so they work and fit better. Replace some of the parts. This one here is the basic manual on it. And it actually tells you how to take the original multi-tool that came with the rifle, with the U.S. military, how to take apart just about everything on the rifle just with that tool. But some of these parts can get you killed. They can hurt you real bad. For instance, the bolt, the ejector spring in the bolt. If you're not real careful when you're taking it apart, that sucker will kill you. So I highly recommend these books before you do any work. And I bought this one here first, and I did it backwards, but it worked out all right. And I'm glad I had this one when I was doing the taking off the operating rod spring guide. Okay, or not the operating rod spring guide, but the operating rod guide itself that mounts to the barrel. Well, you got to take it off, as well as the flash hider, the front sight, the gas system. Everything has to come off up to this in order to get the, and I'm pointing at it and I don't have the camera focused in on that. But anywho, in another video I was talking about that, so I'm not going to go into it again. The tools, that's what we're wanting to talk about. And I'm sorry I'm not being loud and funny and blah blah blah. Hopefully I'm being sort of entertaining. At least I'm giving you hopefully some information that will be helpful for the owner of the rifles if you're new to the rifle, whatever the case may be. Probably should have took all these out of the paper, but I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. But if you really want to maintain your rifle, you really need to get the correct tools to maintain the rifle. And do it correctly. Alright, so I'm going to get back behind the camera here. First things first, there's that multi-tool that comes with the rifle, or it's manufactured for the rifle, I should say, because mine did not come with a damn thing. It came with a rifle, one lousy 10-round magazine when I purchased it, but that was back during the original assault weapons ban. But here's the tool. Here is the chamber brush, made for the chamber, for crying out loud. Made for the chamber of the rifle to clean it out, because this is a semi-automatic rifle, and you have to understand it's a very violent action when the rifle rips the cartridge, not the cartridge, but the cartridge case out of the chamber. and the tolerances on it, especially on this National Match barrel, they're a little tighter, and you've got to keep that daggum chamber clean because you can get it stuck and you can break it. And I just thought about that. That's one of the tools that I've purchased, a broken shell extractor. That's something I highly recommend, that if you have a semi-automatic gas operated rifle, you should have, okay, a broken shell extractor, in case you're out in the field and you break that shell off in the chamber. You don't want to use like a cleaning rod or something to try to rip that case out or knock it out, and you damage the rifling in your barrel. So that is one of the things. But the multi-tool, the reason I call it a multi-tool, it's the handle for your cleaning rod. It is the tool for taking out the gas plug. You can adjust your sights. This end right here is the end that you use to take the bolt apart, which, like I said, I don't recommend you try to do because you can really easily get hurt or killed. And this is a ratcheting brush. Okay, you take one end of your cleaning rod and you stick in there and you use it to ratchet that sucker around inside the chamber to clean that damn chamber. I'm sorry, I cannot do two things at one time. I suppose I must be partially blind. This is a gas plug cleaning drill number O from Sadlak Industries. Then you have two for the piston. Okay, you got the number 15, and then you got the number drill P. Okay, but anyway, these are for cleaning out the gas piston. Then if you decide to take off your castle nut, your flash hider, your flash suppressor, you got your castle nut pliers. Those are real handy. This, if you don't do anything else, this is one that you should have to help you take the gun apart. This is the tool, and I'm going to have to zoom back out because I'm making a mess of this. But this is the tool you hold your gas cylinder, okay? And as a matter of fact, I'll give you a demonstration of it right quick. So maybe I'll be in frame. But when you go to take your gas plug off the end here, you take this tool right here before you put that on there. You just slip that baby right over there, and that holds it so you don't damage the gas cylinder or the plug or the barrel or anything else. And you can just, you can use your hand as you put them off at an angle, and you can use your hand to pop it right off. And once you've got it off and do your cleaning and all that, then you can use the same tools to put it back on and never prevent any damage to it. Alright, this Sadlak one is real thick, and it looks like it'll weigh a ton. That thing is feather light. I would say as thick as it looks and all, and you think it'd be heavy, I don't think it weighs any more than the actual little tool. Boy, did you hear that? They got me a musical instrument all in one. So hey, it's not only a gas cylinder plug, it not only helps you hold the piston to clean the piston out, but it is a musical instrument. Listen to that. Hot diggity dog. You learn something new every day. Okay, I think we've covered everything. You've seen the bipod, and I told you about the adapter, the Surefire flashlight, the little Siemens red dot sight, the Sadlak Industries extended magazine release, the Smith Enterprises extended bolt release. I'll zoom back in on that baby. And there it is right there. And of course under here you got the Sadlak extended magazine release. And my camera does not want to focus on it. I hate these modern electronics sometimes. They help me make these videos, but they can be a big pain in the neck. The Checkmate Industries 20 round stainless steel magazines, all the different tools I've used with it. But that is not it, and that is not all. I got one more thing I want to talk about. Alright, my Lubriplate semi-automatic rifle grease. Alright. The other day in my last video I put on there, I think I said that this was considered aircraft grade. I went to Lubriplate's site, and it does not mention that. The original grease that was used for it was aircraft grade. This did not say a dang gum thing about it. So the two are not the same kind of stuff. And right off the top of my head, I cannot even remember the name of the original grease. But this is what I found that has been recommended for it. It says on their website, made for the M1 Garand M14 rifle. I love the stuff because it sticks like freaking glue to the metal. And when you know, as you're operating the rod, or the operating rod, or whatever the case may be, it'll push the excess along with it. But then you'll have a nice sheen that just sticks like glue, like I said, to the metal and protects it. This stuff is the bomb. I'm telling you, this is the best grease so far I've seen for this rifle. In reading on the subject and going to different forums about the M1A, M14 rifle series, everybody will tell you the grease is the best. It's very, you know, because these are, you know, you can just, fast as you can pull that trigger, that sucker will fire, strip out that spent cartridge, and reload that sucker and be ready to go again as soon as you pull the trigger again. Okay? There's a lot of friction involved, and you definitely don't want to ruin your rifle by, you know, not having the correct lubricant. And the books that I was telling you about, the Complete Assembly Guide by Walt Kulick and Clint McKee, that's what they recommend, grease. Now, they recommend Tetra. I've used Tetra. It's pretty damn thin. I'll be honest with you, did not like it. I've used Brownell's Action Lube Plus grease. It was okay, but it wasn't great. This here, in my opinion, up to now, the little bit of shooting I've done with this on there, it is absolutely the best stuff I have ever seen. But anywho, I'm not going to continue to beat your ears off about it. This is Mac Daddy 1911A1 with the Shade Tree Survivalist and old Betsy. And just needed to do a new video because, like I said, I'd screwed up in one of my videos and I had made a mistake. I'm not going to go into what it was. The person that told me about it, I apologize for that again. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. Any comments, any likes, dislikes, whatever cranks your tractor, do it to it. This is Mac Daddy 1911A1 with the Shade Tree Survivalist. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all have a good day.